This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't yet, you can start by listening to part 1, The True Cost of Crocodile Skin. It's in your feed now. And just a warning, this episode deals with some disturbing themes: bestiality, animal cruelty, and child abuse. Please take care while listening. So, Kath, at one point, the croc skin industry was considered so successful in the Northern Territory that there was talk of emulating it or attempting to in another state, in Queensland. Tell me a bit about what happened.
That's right. The Territory had grown a $100 million croc industry, and Queensland wanted a piece of it. So Queensland introduced a new law that allowed wild croc eggs to be foraged by licensees. And these licensees would sell them for, again, around $25 a piece to factory farms. And the new law was supported by the all-powerful Katter Party, who also wanted, and I'm quoting here, Indigenous groups to host crocodile hunting safaris. As you can imagine, there was a lot of opposition to the idea, even in celebrity circles. And in 2019 at Australia Zoo on the Sunshine Coast, Bindi Irwin urged her Instagram followers, 5.7 million of them, to sign a petition to scrap this new law. And she warned that crocodile hatchlings would be used to turn into boots and bags and belts, and that Australia Zoo's research with the Uni of Queensland showed that it would be devastating to croc populations to take their babies. Her petition provoked these two scientists at Charles Darwin University to give her campaign an absolute drubbing. So these two scientists' research reportedly underpinned Queensland and Territory laws, and their research showed that when wild salty eggs get too wet or too dry, most eggs die anyway, and even viable hatchlings had a slim chance of survival to maturity. And so therefore ranching, which is collecting the eggs, had minimal impact on croc populations, they argued. In fact, they said it had conservation benefits.
Okay, so there was a pair of scientists arguing that collecting the crocodile eggs was actually good for the environment. Who are these two scientists?
Yeah, one of the duo was Graham Webb, who is quite a celebrity scientist. He's a blokey, silver-haired raconteur.
There's maybe 100,000 crocodiles now. It's about $100 million a year in turnover, with everybody. It extends out into Aboriginal communities, and it helps the tourist industry here. So we've made them an asset.
He owns Crocodiles Park, which is a Darwin factory farm, and it has an adjoining zoo and research lab. And Bindi Irwin's other detractor was a man named Adam Britton, quite a celebrity scientist who was this eloquent zoologist who was then in his 40s, and he was mentored by Webb.
When you work with crocodiles, you have to be very respectful of what they're capable of. And if it goes wrong, that's when you lose your hand, that's when you lose your arm, that's where potentially you could lose your life.
He had hobnobbed with royalty. He'd featured in National Geographic and David Attenborough documentaries.
Today, crocodile specialist Dr. Adam Britton is riding along with Robbie. He's collecting DNA to help create a genetic map of Darwin's crocodiles.
What we're doing is we're taking tissue samples from crocodiles that we're catching in Darwin Harbour, and we're comparing them.
And like Graham Webb, Adam Britton ran a media business, and he provided piece-to-camera expertise and croc-for-hire talent. And he accused Bindi Irwin of trying to make up facts. But as her petition gained momentum, so did a transnational police probe into Adam Britton's own fictions. And his research colleague told me that none of Darwin's research community could have possibly imagined in their worst nightmares what he was capable of.
What did police uncover about Adam Britton?
Through online sales sites like Gumtree, Britton had been scamming residents who were relocating or retiring, and he was offering to rehome their dogs. and he'd sent them fictional updates on their pets' welfare with photos he'd taken before he abused the dogs inside what he called his torture room. And this was a shipping container at the back of his home in Darwin's southeast. He then fed the dogs body parts to Smorg, and Smorg was his talent for hire crocodile. In autumn 2022, police raided Britton's home, and by August 2024, he was serving a 10-year jail sentence. He was found guilty of 56 charges, including bestiality, animal cruelty, and possessing child pornography. So before his crimes were exposed, his colleagues had suspected nothing. Most had considered him a nice guy, quiet and gentle and nerdy, but then they started asking if he'd duped peers and dog owners, then what else was chicanery?
Coming up, Kath visits Britton in prison and interrogates the conservation claims at the heart of the crocodile skin industry. So, Kath, when Adam Britton's crimes were revealed, that he had been prolifically abusing animals, people began to look at his research and question what a conviction like that meant. Can you tell me about the questions people had and the conclusions that they came to about his crocodile research?
The research conducted by Adam Britton and Graham Webb asked questions like, if we remove eggs from wild croc nests to supply factory farms, does that have an ecological impact? Their research concluded that extracting wild eggs and farming crocodiles was actually good for conservation, and these findings continue to underpin Territory and Queensland laws, as well as global conservation science. And they also inform federal laws governing farm welfare codes, plus Britton's and Webb's claims help frame the Territory's and Queensland's crocodile management plans. And the science Britton helped produce underpins not just government policy, but also public messaging that gives social licence to this industry. But soon after his arrest for cruelty and bestiality, some of his colleagues then went searching for the hard data that supports Britton's and Webb's claims, and they couldn't find any. Worse still, a study by a group of scientists has now found that wild extraction for crop farming actually expedites ecosystem decline.
Okay, and so what is Adam Britton saying about all of this now? You visited him in jail, didn't you? So tell me what he was like and what he said.
Yeah, Britton is now an inmate at Darwin Correctional Centre, and I was really scared of meeting him. His crimes were unfathomably cruel. You really can't read the court transcript and maintain your composure. And as well as having child abuse material, he's been dubbed the world's worst animal abuser. So I was pretty nervous. What was extraordinary to me was that when we shook hands, his hand was clammy and his body was trembling, and I soon realised that it was possible that this man was as scared of me as I was of him. He acknowledged that animal welfare opinion coming from a zoosadist might seem hypocritical, but he wrote to me that when it comes to animal cruelty on crocodile farms, the small size of cages and conditions in farms gave crocs a limited behavioural repertoire. And I'll read a little more of that letter. It reads, single crocodile pens have come in for particular criticism because of their small size. While I think it's possible for crocodiles to be kept in single pens that don't impact their overall welfare, I'd like to see regulations tightened up to ensure this.
He acknowledged that there are welfare concerns in the crocodile industry.
Yeah, I think he was tacitly admitting that, which is significant because his former research colleague Graham Webb had said animal advocates are misguided. and that crocs enjoy a better life in captivity because it's brutal for them in the wild. Webb still stands by the industry, even though he's distanced himself from Britain, and he still claims that Aboriginal workers are key beneficiaries of the industry. But when I tried sourcing evidence to support this claim, I hit a wall. There's nothing in government data nor industry auditing that suggests that Aboriginal people are key beneficiaries of this industry.
Okay, and to come back to Adam Britton, I mean, this is a man who it seems was one of the worst animal abusers in the country, if not the world. His research before he was discovered underpins the way that the crocodile industry works now. So what does that say to you about how we should be thinking about the crocodile industry?
Yeah, well, first I think lawmakers really must review whether it's okay to have laws concerning animal welfare informed by a zoosadist. Many animal advocates describe this as a cruel and unnecessary industry that exists solely to cater for the rich. It's also been described as secretive, and I know from my interviews that very few people employed by the industry are prepared to speak out. Many of them are bound by non-disclosure agreements, and some ex-workers wouldn't go on the record because they feared industry figures. And some of the scientists I spoke with also wouldn't go on the record, as the research community in Darwin is really small and the university sector is very political. And so I think it's useful to think about the industry as Donnie Imbalong described it, as a very outdated and colonial industry.
And you mentioned that more recent research has thrown into question those claims around conservation and crocodile farming. So at this moment in time, is there anyone who is looking into the industry? Do you sense that there might be reform that comes from this?
I think there might be reform. There is a study about to come out. It's been peer-reviewed. Hopefully the Territory government will look into the science now and review the science. Bodies like the RUCN, Graham Webb no longer sits on that body. His chief scientist still does. But bodies like those are starting to question whether it's okay to have its advisory groups kind of stacked with industry-based scientists rather than what they call more blue sky scientists or field research-based scientists. I think things are slowly shifting. I think people in the fashion justice sector would like to see this industry banned and transition into something more productive that doesn't cater solely towards a rich market.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kath, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ruby.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 7am. Tomorrow we'll be back with another of our favourite episodes from last year. It's about the ways AI chatbots are being designed to keep us engaged, with sometimes devastating consequences. The story centres on the relationship between an older man and a meta chatbot. What it reveals is the way that loneliness is being exploited by big tech for financial gain. I'm Ruby Jones. This is 7am. Thanks for listening.